about cask beer, but before I talk about cask beer, I'm going to say something about filmmaking and beer. Filmmaking is like beer because you start with all of this rough, raw material that you have to put together into this pretty thing. And I'm stealing something from Dan Paquette with the pretty things, but you're taking all of this crazy stuff that makes no sense when it's on its own. But when you put it all together, it comes into this amazing thing. And my stepsister Sarah is a filmmaker, she's an avid editor and a documentary filmmaker. And her father's also a filmmaker. And he said this to me about 10 years ago. He said to her, he said, filmmaking is like making beer. That's it. That's my little two. So cask ale is something that we do because we like it. We want to drink it, we like to make it, and we think that it has a really great marketability. It helps to, again, it's sort of something special that we do that's not really on our normal path of process. We take the filter out of the mix when we're making cask beer. So we take beer that's basically done fermenting and not quite in the conditioning phase, right in between those two, and we pour it very gently into a cask. And inside that cask, we put finings, more hops, and sugar. And sometimes we put wood, and sometimes we put herbs, and fruit, and spices, and whatever else. But certainly hops. And we make all of our beers in the cask, in the firkins, and back behind those firkins you see a little pin. And that pin is actually the property of Red Bones in Somerville, and we'll be making that for them. That's half a firkin, basically. A firkin is 10.8 gallons, and what we do is we basically are moving unfiltered finished beer into the firkin, where it will then go through a secondary fermentation. It'll absorb some of the aromas from those hops that we put in there, or the wood, or whatever. And finings that we put in there, isinglass, and sometimes we don't find the beer, depending on the beer, but we find most of them. It will basically adhere itself to all the solids that are in the beer, yeast, protein, etc. And all of that will drop out into the bottom of the vessel, and will leave the beer nice and bright. So when you pour it out of that beer engine or on gravity, the beer is beautifully, looks filtered actually, even though it isn't. It's dropped bright. So cask ale is served at an elevated temperature, more than about 50 degrees, 55 degrees, whereas draft beer is typically in the low 40s, high 30s. And it's just something else to do, something fun to try. And we find that a lot of our draft accounts really want cask beer. You know, we've got cask beer at Cambridge Common and Red Bones and Deep Ellum and Sunset. Lots of places, the Bone and Dove, Dirty Truth out west, both Bacon Sierra Grill just put in a beer engine. Union Brewhouse in Lehman is the only place around here serving cask. BBC in Plymouth has cask, so there's a lot of bars, forward-thinking bar owners that think that it's a cool idea and a great way to have a traditional English-style beer served properly, and that's, I think, just a cool